Welcome to the Art Gallery Workshop. I'm your host, Christopher Epling. Really appreciate you tuning in this week. We have a very special program ready for you this week, and I'm so excited to be introducing to you a local artist. What I think is possibly some of the best, if not the best talent that I've seen for her age or any age, to be honest. I mean, she's just absolutely beyond her years with her work. Also want to take time to thank Pike TV and theholler.org for producing and making this television show possible. It's all about showcasing different art techniques, different skills and things that you can take home and work right there at home along with us. So if you want to grab a piece of paper and some markers and a pen and a pencil, you can follow along with anything we're doing right here on the television show. This week in particular is going to be really special, and I've not done anything quite like this. Now, we've done a few student spotlight episodes in the past, 3 total actually, but this one's very special because this actually is going to be showcasing a student's work who I haven't had in a workshop in the past, someone that I was just recently introduced to, and someone that I'm very thankful to have been introduced to because, like I said at the beginning, her work is amazing, and I hope you feel the same, and I know you'll feel the same. She's going to be showing you how she creates some of her work in today's episode. We're going to be concentrating on Copic markers. Now, we've talked a lot about those lately, but we really haven't had a chance to see those put to use. And this just so happens to be the medium of choice for this young artist. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Hannah Mullins to this week's Art Gallery Workshop. Say hello to everybody, Hannah.
Hello.
Now, Hannah is, how old are you?
15.
15 years old. She's 15 years old, and she is a student at Pike Central High School. She's a sophomore. Her work is some of, like I said at the beginning, I hate to, you're right here and I'm bragging on you, but some of the best I've ever seen. We've got a couple of sketchbooks we want to share, if that's okay. Okay. Now, we talked a lot about Copic markers, and just so happens you really prefer Copic markers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be flipping through your sketchbook here, and we're going to be taking it from the top. Now, this is one you just recently started, correct?
Well, I never did finish it.
You haven't finished. This is a new sketchbook you're just starting out in, so we're going to start here at first. And now, you notice that there's going to be a theme that goes along with your work, right? What's your theme?
Horses.
Horses. Hannah absolutely loves horses, and she uses Copic markers to produce this. And if you look here, this is one of her stallions, right? Would it be a stallion? Okay, or a walking horse? Walking horse. Okay, you're going to have to correct me on some of these. They're pretty. But it's just amazing. Now, Hannah also, something very interesting about her work is she uses the circle method or the Marvel method to create a lot of your pieces, right?
Yeah.
Here's another one. Now, this one you just finished recently?
Yeah.
Right, all of these recently.
Yeah,
Great.
all of them are pretty recent.
And I'm happy to say that you just got accepted in the Gifted and Talented at Pike Central?
Well, I'm trying to get into it.
No, you're going to get accepted. You're amazing. If you don't get accepted, I'll personally walk out to the school and knock on their door. How's that sound? Okay. This is some of the most amazing work I've seen. Now, this one is a sketchbook, a collection that she's finished. Now, this is a, I guess, a self piece that you've done of yourself. Okay. Now, if you look really close in Hannah's work, you're going to see this is Copic markers, right?
Yeah.
Now, why do you like to use Copic markers so well? And we'll talk about it as we flip through here.
Because it blends so well.
So you like the blending portion? And you can really see how the marker here, what she's talking about, this is one solid shape. And with a lot of markers, what happens is if you go to color with them, you can start out, and if you let that area, one piece dry over here, and you go to start back on this side, by the time you work all the way across to finish that out completely blue, you've got 2 shades of blue, right? So Copic markers, they dry very fast. This is Alice, I guess this is Alice in Wonderland. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this is one of the famous scenes from Disney. This is a beautiful scene. This is Bambi. Yeah, you're going to have to help me on some of these. It's just amazing work. I mean, I love it. Whenever I first open Hannah's sketchbook, I open these pages right here. And as you can see from home, and as you can tell, it's amazing work. 15 years old. This is a local artist right here in our region. There's no doubt in my mind she's going to go on. If she wanted to do something in art, you're going to be, I mean, you're already talented beyond your years. I'm just blown away. Now, this is a Day of the Dead. This is a Spanish cultural, it's a holiday. I think it's called De Nueces or something. I don't know. You'll have to help me out there, Spanish fluent-speaking folks will have to help me on that one. But one of the things, they ornate skulls. That's one of their biggest pieces. So this is just amazing. Let me ask you something. Why horses?
I've always loved them.
You've always loved horses. Now, do you own a couple horses too?
I own 2.
2 horses yourself? And now, when you first started, do you draw, your earliest memories drawing, have you always drawn horses?
Yeah, I've always drawn horses.
Always? Now, here's a great, now I'm glad we turned to this page. You can see a little bit of Hannah's process. Now, if you open up any sketchbook to any artist, you're going to see their process. And this is one of the things that I'm most interested in. Now, you use this method, the circle method, right?
Yes.
And what this does is it gives you a framework to go by, right? And you said that at an early age, you picked up a how-to book, sort of, and it kind of talked about using that, didn't it, a little bit? And what is this from?
It's just a husky I drew.
Is this a husky? And you do a lot of your own creations. All of these horses, and it's good to point this out to everybody, these are your own creations. I mean, literally, in preparation for this episode, I sat here and watched Hannah pull up a picture of a horse on her phone, sketch the horse out. I'm trying to follow over here in terms to try to prepare for the episode. I couldn't keep up with her, okay? It's amazing what she does. Now, this is really, really nice work. You can see how the blending of the Copic markers. And let's show folks a couple of these markers, too. They're right here beside of Hannah's sketchbooks on the screen. They're sold in a variety of colors, aren't there? Lots of different hues, as we call them. So they go from light to dark in any given color, right? And when did you start picking up Copic markers to use them?
Around November of last year.
So you mean to tell me you've only been using this less than a year?
Yeah.
Less than a year she's been working in this medium. It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. When I first, I was introduced to Hannah's work prior to actually meeting Hannah. This is the first time Hannah and I have ever met. Now, some students that I bring in, I work with them in workshops in the past, and I'm familiarized with their work a little bit. But you can imagine my excitement when I open up and I'm looking at this sketchbook and I'm looking at these amazingly done pieces, and I'm thinking, you know, who is this artist? I'm thinking that she's already graduated high school. I'm thinking, what art school is she in? And then go on to find you're a sophomore. You've 15 years old. It's amazing. I mean, it's truly amazing. You have supportive family and home, don't you? They help encourage you, and that's really what it takes. So now that's an awesome bunny. I know a lot of students at home are going to love your bunny. Now, what motivates you to fill up these pages?
Mostly Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about Instagram as we're flipping through these pages. A lot of artists out there, young artists, they want to know, where can we get your work promoted and get it out there more? Tell us a little bit about Instagram. How does Instagram work, and why is it good for a young artist to use?
I think it's really helpful because you can get paid for commissions too.
No, wait, you can get paid too? See, this is we talked in the last episode about the graphite drawings. Now, who is this?
Brendan Urie.
Brendan Urie? You're going to have to help me on these pop
It's a
artists.
singer.
He's a singer? Okay. And he's one of your favorite singers? Okay, awesome. And how does it work, though, that an artist gets paid for their work on Instagram? How does that work?
They usually mail you money, and then you'll draw it. And
So they
send
commission
it.
you? So they say, hey, Hannah, I really want a walking horse with, let's say, a skyline, a city skyline on the drawing in it. And then you would go and draw that and mail it to them, and then mail you a check. So you're already making money from your work then, pretty much, is what you're saying. See, I tell everyone each week how they can make money off their work if the talent's there. Now, I particularly like this piece a whole lot. This is really cool. See, I'm a big cartoonist. I like, cartoons and stuff. Is this you?
Mm-mm.
It's not? Is this one of your friends, too? We passed up on here. I wanted to ask you a question about. Who is this?
It's just someone I drew.
So you do your own characters, too, on top of that. Hannah is going to participate, I think, as far as we know, if she wants to. She's in the actually this school year, so it's going to be the Fall Art Gallery Workshop's what it's called. And it's going to be called Leaders and Legends this time. And she wasn't able to participate in the last school years, but she is participating in this school years. And I told her, with this talent and what I've seen by looking at her work, the goal of that workshop is to get young published artists and writers from our region. And there's no doubt in my mind that Hannah's going to go on to be one of those published authors. So I want to show a few more of these now. With Copic markers, like you've seen here, It's every color in the rainbow, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you buy one marker, and the way that this pigment is created in the pens, that you have a broad end, which is this end here, as you can see, and I won't mark on your artwork, I promise. And then you have a thinner end too, right? And each marker is like that, right? So you could get inside this detail and get some of the broader strokes finished too. So I want to flip through a few more of these now. This is where in your sketchbook I started to say, my goodness, it's amazing. And it's in the hair, because a lot of young artists have a hard time showing light and how light reflects off hair. Highlights, thank you, you're right. So with your work though, you're able to do that in such a way. Did you have any formal training doing this? So you look at stuff you like and you emulate it, right? So you look at, let's say you look at a certain drawing or illustration that you like, and you say, okay, I see how that artist shown highlights in their hair, and then you'll go reproduce that. That is a talent. That is a natural talent. That is something that, to me, the potential becomes scary with a young artist and where they could go. And you at home can see in the mane and in the tail of this horse here how she has chose to leave out. She hasn't colored the entire piece one solid color, but she's actually chose to leave out color here, right? And talk to me a little bit too about, let's say you start a brand new page. How do you decide what's going to go on that page?
I usually just draw my characters.
Okay, so you'll sketch out a horse, right? And then, like for instance, here with this one, you have the stars and the blue. Look at these northern lights kind of feel to that. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah.
How do you decide to do that? Why not draw a desert or a sunset? You just whatever comes to mind. It's amazing. It really is. And this sketchbook is this a self-portrait?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Her work is, I mean, page after page after page of just absolute, I don't know, it blew me away. And when I first flipped through this, I knew right away, I wrote your mom, and your mom named Sheila, right? And I said, Sheila, how can we get her on the art workshop? And you were more than happy to come in, right? And that's how we led up to today. Now, is this someone, a friend, or a character?
No, just somebody I thought of in my head.
Just a character. Now, do you have backstories of these folks or anything? Or you just draw them up?
Just draw them.
Now we're getting to some more of the, a little bit more setting and the theme stuff that I thought was really cool, such as this one with the ocean. A lot of students ask, how did they get this variation from light to dark? Copic markers work really well for that, don't they? Mm-hmm. And you can see here how the sand is blended in with the horse, so she's used the theme of this is a sand-colored horse by the sunset of the beach, and it's just amazing stuff. Aha! Another great little sneak peek into your process here using these circles. Now I call this the Marvel method, and some students call this the circle method or other things, but here's one of the unfinished before coloring. So you'll start out with these circles. You'll do a circle and then a circle, and then you'll connect those dots, right? And we talked about this in the art workshop before. And I've asked students to do this before, and they don't trust me that this works, but it does work, doesn't it? So when you start out, you'll start out like with a circle, and you'll just sketch it out, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you'll do another circle here, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll go in then and add this detail in, right?
Yeah.
To create the shape or look of the horse, and going down the mane and something like that, right?
Yeah.
With the ears here. Something like that. So you can see how these circles come together to create these shapes. And you already know how to do this. I mean, you haven't had any formal training. Now, your art teacher, though, at Pike Central, what was her name again? Bambi
Lucas.
Bambi Lucas. Now, she helped you a great deal, didn't she, to prepare and to get kind of more familiar with some of these things. I want to show a couple more pieces. There's one in particular. Now, here's another theme setting, as you can see, with the horse with the background. This looks like you've started a lion, maybe? Or a dog?
Start of a wolf.
A wolf, okay. And then here we get back into more of the theme with the horses. I like this one a whole lot. This is for 300
Followers.
followers. Oh, for your Instagram. So not only are you promoting your work on Instagram, you're creating your artwork so that when something happens where you get 300 followers on Instagram, then you go and you promote it with a piece of art. Now, do you do the art for trade thing?
Art trades.
Art trades? Will you talk to the audience a little bit? Tell the audience a little bit about what an art trade is, those interested.
An art trade is when you make art for someone and then they make art for you in return.
Okay, so you can like trade it. So like say if I'm an artist and you really like how I draw, let's say landscapes or something cool, or maybe in pen and ink, and I really like how you draw horses, you might agree to say, hey, I'll draw you a horse if you draw a landscape for me, right? And that's through Instagram too? Okay, so some more advice, like do you do Facebook for your art too?
No.
Only Instagram right now, right? So what's your Instagram handle?
Splashes of paint.
Splashes of Paint. So those interested out there who would like to see Hannah's work on Instagram, go to Splashes of Paint at Instagram?
On Instagram.
On Instagram, sorry. So search for Splashes of Paint and you'll be able to follow your work, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Here, a couple more real fast just before we go. Here's another Day of the Dead piece. This is just so unreal. I love your work. I could show your work all day. I mean, the use of color, your understanding of proportion. You're 15 years old. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So are all of these listed on Instagram?
All of them.
Every one of these. So all the things that we're looking at here today during the art gallery workshop, if you were interested in going online, and here's a skyline piece, isn't that cool? If you're interested in seeing Hannah's work, go to Instagram, Splashes of Paint, right? Okay, you want to work a little bit, maybe show some of the audience at home how you put color on your pieces? Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's work together for a little bit and see what happens. So what we're going to do is we already have Hannah set up with some color. I'm going to put your sketch brushes safe and sound over here, okay?
Okay.
Promise. All right, so we'll switch to our overhead, and we got our Copic markers ready now. She sketched this up prior to starting, right? Okay, so this is what you start out with after you pencil it. So you'll pencil the piece in, you have the piece ready, and now you're going to start putting color, right? Okay, so go ahead and walk us through that.
I'll start with the second darkest color and start at the top of the hair.
Okay, so you'll start at the top of the hair, and you said the second darkest color?
Yeah.
Okay. So why not start with the lightest color?
Well, you can start with the lightest color. I just prefer this way.
This is how you prefer? Okay. All right. I sketched one of these earlier, I promise. I'm gonna find it and see if I can't follow along with you. Now I'm embarrassed to show my version, but yeah, how pitiful is that, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna follow along with you, okay? A little bit. I'm gonna use, believe it or not, I'm gonna use brown. How's that sound? That rhyme. Did you catch that? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna use a green mane. So now notice you've drawn lines in your mane, though, right?
Yeah.
So those help guide you each individual strand, and notice at home how she's leaving out in those areas, how she's not coloring the entire piece in, and she's leaving out those strands in order to go back in later. And what she's done is when she's went through, she's created these lines like this through the mane, okay, so that she can go back later. And I'm guessing that's how you've done this, right? Sort of like this?
Yeah.
And that way, when she goes back to add color in a little bit, she can add that highlight effect that we talked about. Students have a hard time with that. Sometimes students want to color the entire thing brown, and then they want to go back through at the end and try to add a little bit of highlights, and that's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Okay, so you start out with the next to the darkest color.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to try to follow along the best I can here, okay? Have you ever seen a horse with green mane? Here it is. And then you leave out, I guess, these areas of white, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it looks like you're starting at the top of the mane or the end of the mane?
Yeah, at the end of the strand of hair.
Okay, at the end of the strand of hair, she's starting out, okay? And once you have that, then what do you do?
I start with the color next to the second darkest.
Okay, so the next next to the darkest color, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you'll go back through there. And how am I doing over here? Am I actually getting these highlights looking okay?
Yep.
If you have a horse with green mane, hey, I could do a St. Patrick's Day horse, right? Okay, so you're leaving out those areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see what you're doing now. So you're adding in then the lighter color that goes just inside of the darker color, always moving towards the
Middle.
middle. That's very cool. Now, do you suggest for young artists at home, let's say they're wanting to get their work out there like you've done, do you suggest Instagram is a good way to do it?
Definitely.
And is it a pretty good artist community on Instagram?
Yeah.
And you've gotten a lot of positive feedback from your work, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's your plans after school? What do you want to do?
Well, I'm hoping to be a veterinarian.
You want to be a veterinarian?
Yep.
That's awesome. So do you think you might continue doing your art even though
More
you're
than
getting
likely
older?
so.
More than likely so? I hope you do. I really do, because you're too talented to give it up. You really are. You should never give it up. That's my opinion, okay? And you've sold pieces too. That's what's so great about it. Like we talked about earlier, you've managed to sell pieces of your work online already. Now that's a good indicator that you shouldn't give it up. If you're already selling your work and you're 15 years old, you shouldn't give it up. Okay, now you've walked us through this again now. So you have your darker strands on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going into the lighter.
I'm working into the middle with lighter colors.
And keep working into the middle. Okay, that's really interesting what you've done. And you notice she's already got all of the colors that she's planning on using out here. And I'm going to hold these up towards the camera for a second, okay?
Okay.
So she started out using second to darkest, right? And the darkest comes in at the end, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's moving towards the lighter with each one. So you can see how she's done that there. She's keep moving in to create those highlight effects. Now, do you have a gel pen you use too?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a Jelly Roll pen. And you can get those at Walmart, can't you?
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby or any local art supply store, right? That sells art supplies. You can purchase these, and what that does is while you're working on this, I'm going to show everybody exactly what they can do with that. So why have a white marker, you might ask? Well, I'll show you. What the white marker does is after you've put in your color, as Hannah's doing here, I'm going to try to find a great example of this. The stars that you see inside of this green portion here, those are actually created using the white, or here, this is so cool, the Egyptian style horse. Look at that, how amazing. That is just unreal. You keep going, don't let me stop you. I'm going to talk while we do this, okay?
Okay.
It's unreal. I know your family's super proud of you, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, do you show horses too?
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. This is a Native American themed horse. It's a
Yeah.
painted horse, right?
Appaloosa.
Appaloosa, okay. Appaloosa, and there was one in here in particular. There it is. Now, those at home can see this from there. I mean, we could zoom in and show better, but I mean, it's amazing what she's done with this. It's a moon landscape. There's stars in the mane and in the tail that she's actually used with the white gel roll pen. So you create those effects using this pen, right?
Yep.
It's just it's unbelievable. I've worked, like I said, in over 350 plus schools since 2010, and I've never met a 15-year-old with limited some art training background. Bambi Lucas is an amazing art teacher, but there also requires a certain natural talent that comes with students. And the amazing thing is Hannah's right here from our region. She's producing artwork that's well beyond her years, and her understanding of how to use mediums, how to pull perspective together. And let me tell you something else. Horses aren't easy to draw. They're not easy. I mean, you could see kind of what I kind of came up with earlier, but The schools I go to, the students that ask, one of the two biggest things that they ask me how to draw, besides hands and feet, are horses. That's one of the things that's hardest to draw. Do you want to say hello to anybody while you're here? Look in that camera and say hi to your mom or anybody at school.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, okay. Actually, her mother's in the studio here with you today, isn't she?
Yeah.
And it takes that supportive element. So let's do one more overhead shot of this mane. I mean, this is just unreal, what she's done. And your finished version, as you went along, would come out something like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I'm so proud of you. I can't wait. Hopefully you can get involved with the art workshop coming up here. October 19th is the start of the new one. And we'd like to see your book published one day. That'd be the goal. And you could come up with some ideas with some horses for stories, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Hannah, I'm just so thankful that you came into the studio today. Let's show your big piece before we end, though. Now, this is something really cool. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is from the video game Red Dead Redemption.
Okay. This is Big Red Redemption?
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption. Okay. Now, this is a great example of Hannah's ability. Not only does she work with horses, but she has an understanding the shading. This is a large-scale piece. Anybody that's ever tried to draw on a large-scale piece are going to understand how difficult this is to get shading down. It's not easy. But this is an amazing job from a video game character.
Mm-hmm.
Is this your favorite video game? And I know a lot of our students at home are going to recognize. And what's his name?
John Marston.
John Marston, right? From Big Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption. I'll get it right. It's a tongue tweezer. We'll keep working. I'll eventually, if we have 30 more minutes, I'll get it right, I promise. But
Okay.
it's just an amazing job. And you know what? Maybe at the end of the Art Gallery Workshop, we'll pull you in and see what kind of book you created for that. Does that sound fun? Okay, well, I really appreciate everybody tuning in today. Like I said, these workshops that we provide here on Pike TV, produced by Pike TV and theholler.org, are about our local regional talent. And Hannah is a great example of what is coming and could come from our region. But like I say each week, and I want to make this really clear, this is not about me, it's not about what I'm doing, it's about our youth. We live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We have some of the most talented people in the world. And we got to start thinking a little bit about, hey, what are some other ways that our students can look into providing a means for themselves after high school? Art isn't always the first thing on the list, but it's growing more and more. And as a person who works professionally in the publishing industry, I can tell you that there's jobs out there. And students like Hannah, if they wanted to, could have a flourishing, successful career as an illustrator, graphic designer, architect, she name it, whatever she wanted, she could do it. So I'm really happy to have her here as a guest today. And if you have any submissions at home you'd like to submit to us, please log on to theholler.org, send in your artwork, and we may have you as a spotlighted student guest sometime so you could talk about your work and your creations and your processes. Those interested in any of the supplies that we have here today, go to your local art supply store and ask for those by name. And if you have any questions for me, be sure and just log on to theholler.org, and I'll be happy to answer you any questions that you might have pertaining to today's broadcast or any broadcast in the past. So thanks so much for tuning in, and as always, keep drawing.